Speaking of which, right? Cody Garbrandt, Rob Font. Cody Garbrandt. Let's talk about double Dillashaw and, tough fights, right? Tough fights. I think the Pedro Munoz fight is probably one of my favorite 30 seconds of a fight of all time. I'd put it in the top 10 at least, right? Craziness. What is Cody thinking? I believe is Joe Rogan's exact line when that's happening. I don't know what he was thinking. The man just turns into zombie mode and just goes for broke. I think that Pedro Munoz even said before that he believed that he was the better technical striker. He's barely ever been, knocked out or anything, whether it's training or fighting. So he felt very confident getting in those swinging battles. And let's be real, man, that's how Cody loses. Cody's phenomenal when it comes to technical striking, but when he wants to brawl, he leaves himself so open, it's actually scary. And it's almost like a street fight at that point. And I think that the fighters that are able to think on their feet and use their footwork and land some of their own power shots, they clearly are giving enough trouble to Cody to make them obviously drop him pretty hard. Now, outside of that, right? When he uses that head movement, when he keeps his hands up as much as he possibly can, when he uses all of that type of technical skill, he obviously does a lot better. I think the Assunção fight, he waited for his opportunity. He did not rush. In fact, how hard was your heart beating when he was up against that fence? It's pretty simple that everybody's heart was breaking out of their shirts, right? I think that for me, it was, I was on my feet for that fight, man. And when he landed that, it's like, there's nothing like looking at replays when you're able to reminisce the actual event. Like when you can transport yourself into the moment, when you experienced it, it makes it a little fun. And that's what makes music so great too, right? The nostalgia. So for me, Cody is one of the most nostalgic fighters in MMA because his pre-game, all that stuff leading up to the fight, plus his actual in-octagon presence is phenomenal. You can't not love Cody, love Garbrandt, because the kid is just so freaking exciting. And I don't want him putting his life on the line so much. I want him keeping his hands up. I want him taking his time. I want to see that head movement and technical boxing so much more. Even that, he's not as, when he gets to these higher levels too, the kicks are definitely able to help him set up. His combos are so fast, right? That's what makes him exciting. And so with that defensive aspect of his game, his 100% takedown defense, the guy's an absolute monster. Such a beauty fighter in the game. And I think that in this case, once again, Rob Font. What is Rob Font good at, man? Rob Font is a freaking good boxer. He's a great boxer. He switches stance, after he throws his power shots, almost like a defensive move to wait for you to kind of react, maybe throw something back. I love that he uses his boxing so well. The jab is pinpoint accurate. I think that this is going to be a tough fight when it comes to the stand-up game for Garbrandt. His toughest test yet, because Rob is going to wait for you to make a mistake. He did that with such a great technical striker like Marlon Moraes, who's now seen similar outcomes against guys like him and Corey Sandhagen. And I think both those guys are pretty similar, right? I think they have that beautiful counter-striking length. But how good is Rob Font's boxing? I think that I'm pound for pound, I put him pretty high in the UFC, right? I think that that's how good he's looked. He doesn't take much damage on the feet. And looking at the Ricky Simón fight, I was kind of interested in how Ricky Simón was able to kind of not get his take. He's just looked so good lately, right? And so I remember watching that fight originally and just always thinking that Rob Font's boxing looked so great, but in that fight, man, the way he uses his guillotine to get back to his feet, the way he's able to make Ricky Simón work so hard to keep it on the ground, even though he gets the takedowns. I mean, that's how Rob Font, really was able to dictate that fight a bit more. It's like in Ricky Simón's most opportune parts of the game, he really couldn't get anything done. And that made me really excited for what could come. And I think in this case, you're seeing two guys, technical strikers, both guys who might get irresponsible, but I think you give a bit more of the edge, just like you would Pedro Munoz, to Rob Font, because the technical striking is there, maybe the chin advantage is there. But if this stays technical and Cody stays disciplined, my word, you're looking at a potential fight of the year. This is going 5 rounds, ladies and gentlemen, 5-round fight. Think about that. If these guys are able to go 5 rounds, it's going to be one of the best fights of the year. Trust me on that. Trust me. Oh my God, I got myself excited. So without further ado, let's take a look at these lines. pretty much even live. Doesn't matter where you go. Minus 115 some places, minus 110 some places, still even. Now, opening line. Rob Font minus 125, Garbrandt plus 105. I believe that actually opened the opposite way for a little bit and it switched back. That's what I remember seeing in this fight, because I was really curious to see how good Rob Font's boxing is stacking up to Vegas against Cody Garbrandt's indisciplined, fighting in previous fights, even with what Rob Font, did to fighters like Marlon Ramirez. So looking at this fight, I don't know what to say. I think the under is a phenomenal bet here. Chances are the juice is pretty high. So when you're looking at parlays in this fight, we kind of laid out a couple like the Tafas and your Felicia Spencers and your unders in the main event. And, I think the Carla Esparza fight was an interesting one. I thought that was going to be a little bit more of a, I was excited to kind of showcase her as a much bigger dog, but she deserves it, man. And I'm really excited to watch her fight again. So from top to bottom, you're looking at the beauty of the fight game right now is there's just so much talent coming up. The fact that this main card is opening with Jack Hermanson and Edmund Shabazian, let's be real. This could have been a main event, 3-4 months ago. So that's what's making this card really stand out to me. It's squeezed in between such prolific fights with the most prolific names over the last 5 years of fighting. So that's what's overshadowing a lot of these fight night cards. But man, it's going to be great. Trust me on that one. And as always, guys, like, follow, subscribe. Go over to Instagram, SookyMMA, Twitter, TheSookyScoop. I'm going to be live tweeting quite a bit now. A couple buddies want to do a post show. We've been brewing that a little bit, so we'll see where that goes. But all in all, man, I've been enjoying this. I hope you guys are too. Starting to see more comments. Let's keep it going. SookyMMA, UFC Vegas 27. Peace.